This would include things such as stealing and murder and being brought before the authorities and having to pay some type of penalty of the civil law. Then you have what is known as the ceremonial law, and this would include things like the priesthood, the temple sacrifices, and other such things. Now, some people think that the content here, or what Yeshua is saying is, don't think that I came to destroy the moral law, but I did come to take away and destroy the civil and the ceremonial law. However, I don't think that that's what Yeshua is saying here at all, and this is why, once again, friend, context is important. So let's look at how Yeshua himself confirms the civil law. Look at Matthew 5, verse 21, where he says, "You have heard that it was said to our ancestors, 'Do not murder, and whoever murders will be subject to judgment.' But I tell you, everyone who is angry with his brother or his sister will be subject to judgment. Whoever insults his brother or sister will be subject to the court. Whoever says, 'You fool,' will be subject of hell fire." Now notice that word court. Now, some translations might say council or Sanhedrin, but it's really the same word here, because the Sanhedrin that Yeshua is talking about here, or the court, is the council of the 70 elders that existed in the first century, who were given the task, if you will, of pronouncing judgments on a civil level to the people of Israel. Now, even though they were somewhat under Roman rule, the Roman authorities allowed the governing Sanhedrin, or the court, to go so far as to even put people to death sometimes for violating the law of Yahweh, the Torah. Now, the reason this is important is to show that in the context here of the Sermon on the Mount, which is the text we're looking at, Yeshua mentions the civil law, not just the moral. Now, Yeshua, he specifically mentions the penalty for breaking the law. If you say to your brother, "You fool," you might have to go before the court or the Sanhedrin. Now let's look at Matthew 26, verse 59, where we read, "The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false testimony against Yeshua so that they could put him to death. But they could not find any, even though many false witnesses came forward." So we see here, this is the same council, or the Sanhedrin, that Yeshua was taken before and unjustly crucified as a result of the two witnesses that eventually came forward and lied on him. But the point here is that in the same book, within the same author, this word council or Sanhedrin is a reference to going before a court for a time of judgment. So in Matthew 5, when Yeshua says, "Don't begin to think or assume that I came to destroy the law or the prophets," he's not just talking about the moral law. He's also talking about the civil law, the penalties for breaking the law, because he mentions the Sanhedrin or the council and having to go before them. But what about the ceremonial law? So let's now look at how Yeshua himself even confirms the ceremonial law. And there are those who would say that surely Yeshua took away the ceremonial law, right? There's no need for all of that. I mean, after all, wouldn't that take away from what Yeshua came to do? Now, friend, I don't think that's what Yeshua is talking about at all in Matthew chapter 5. I think that when he said he did not come to destroy the law or the prophets, I think he meant anything that Yahweh ever commanded or taught his people. His mission was not to destroy any law, any teaching, or any command given by Yahweh. And again, the reason that I believe this is context. So let's look at Matthew chapter 5, beginning with verse 23, where we read, "So if you are offering your gift on the altar, and there you remember that your brother or your sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled with your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift." Now, the word gift here is the English word, but whether it's used in the Hebrew scriptures or in the apostolic writings, it could be referencing an animal sacrifice or money for the temple treasury. But we have a clue here that we want to look at. And so the clue here, showing that Yeshua is actually talking about animal sacrifice, is the context, because he says, your gift on the altar. Now, when you and I hear this word altar, we think of the place at the front of the church where the people sometimes go to pray. But when Yeshua talked about an altar, he was talking about the sacrificial altar. But because of modern-day Christian teaching, we don't view the sacrifices as a gift. They're usually depicted in the modern-day setting as something that is totally just barbaric and primitive, and why would anyone want anything to do with that? The belief is Yahweh doesn't require that of us now since we have Messiah. But now the Hebrew word for sacrifice here, it's the word korban. And this word korban simply just means a gift. But we must remember that the majority of the animal sacrifices that Yahweh commanded didn't have anything to do with sin. And you'll be amazed at the people in the church today who don't even realize that. They think that all the sacrifices dealt with sin in some matter. Now, there are 5 categories of animal sacrifices. 2 of them are the sin and the guilt offering, and they have to do with sin. But the other 3 categories, the burnt offering, the peace offering, and the grain offering, didn't have anything to do with sin. They were simply brought as a gift to Yahweh. You have to understand, they raised livestock, and one of the ways that they would show their appreciation to Yahweh is by offering every 10th cow, every 10th goat, every 10th sheep, every firstborn of the flock, in other words. And so the point here is that according to the context of Matthew chapter 5, Yeshua is talking about the ceremonial law, the law of the sacrifices, because he mentions the gift on the altar.